UniFi Network 9.3 was just released, and there are a lot of great features, but I think there are four main features that most home users will use. And that's what we're going to take a look at in this video, and we are going to jump right into it. So the first big change is for the client list. Now, the important thing for the client list is that it's somewhat important for you, if you haven't done so already, to go through and name all of your devices. Now, some of them you'll be able to determine from the host name itself exactly what it is. A lot of them you won't, especially things like IoT devices and stuff like that. So overall, I would recommend that you go through this client list. It's a little bit of a pain, but if you go through the client list, you should be able to name them exactly what they are, which will just make the process a lot easier from a visibility perspective and make this feature that we're about to look at a lot better. Now, the client list always showed all of your client devices, but at this point, you can get very, very granular to determine exactly what client devices are connected and where they are connected. Now, why this is important is because this can really help you improve your Wi-Fi network. So I did a video on Wi-Fi network optimization, but a lot of the times it was hard for users to determine exactly what access point each device was connected to. Now, the information was always there, but it wasn't very easy to filter down on it. So what you could do at this point is you could go through and determine exactly what devices are connected to what access points. So for example, I know that this device here should not be connected to an access point in the basement. It's not a problem, that's where it's connected now, but it gives me the visibility into it to determine exactly why this device is connecting to that access point. Now, I'm talking a lot about Wi-Fi devices, but this is going to work for wired devices as well, and it just gives you an easy way to go through and narrow down exactly what is connected where. The other thing to mention is that I'm currently on the release candidate version, and when the official version is released, there's supposed to be a DHCP manager option up here. Basically, that's just going to show all of your DHCP leases. And this is kind of how it will look. Now, it's going to look a little different because you're going to have all those filters on the left-hand side. But what you'll see is basically all of the DHCP leases that you have and exactly what type of lease it is, when it expires, etc. So this is a really nice feature that will just basically be an easier way to manage all of your devices, especially for some of those DHCP reservations. Now, the next big thing is on the content filtering side. So you were always able to create content filtering rules, but they really made it so that you can create multiple and have very granular content filtering rules. So inside of the cyber secure section, there is a content filtering tab. And this is where you'll go through and create different content filtering options. So for example, if you wanted to have a schedule that at certain times, certain devices are connected or content filtered, you can do that. It's very, very simple to go through. A few examples of this would be if you had kids and you wanted YouTube blocked, for example. If you wanted YouTube and certain social media platforms blocked at certain times, maybe during the week, but available on the weekends, you could go through and create a different policy for each of those that basically says exactly when it applies, what is allowed, what is blocked. And then at that point, you would have different rules that would apply at different times. And then you could go in if you had to in the future and you could pause specific rules. So if it's like summer and you wanted them to be able to access things that they can't normally during the school year, you could just pause it, re-enable it as soon as the school year starts, and you're good. The next big thing with this is that this is where you can configure ad blocking. So ad blocking was always there as well, but you can create different content policies for ad blocking. Then you can create different content policies for your different VLANs, have different rules, etc. So it's pretty powerful based on the options that it provides to you. So the next one is the alarm manager. Now this is something that's existed in UniFi Protect, and there are some default alarms here that you would be notified about. But you can come in here and create an alarm, and it's very powerful depending on exactly what you're looking to do. So why I think this could be powerful for home users is if you had certain devices that you wanted to know when they were and were not connected. And an example of that could be if you want to know when someone connects to your network. So probably something that not many people would do, but Let's say you had all of your devices connected and you're not really adding devices, people aren't coming over, you're not turning on and off devices. What you could do is create an alarm for when client devices are connected, exclude all of your client devices here, and then what you could do is basically be informed as soon as someone connects to your network. Now that's just one example, but what about the reverse? What about if you had a device that you knew had to be online at all times? You could do when the client device disconnects, and if it does disconnect, you'll be notified exactly when it disconnects to try and figure out why. So these alarms are very, very powerful, depending on exactly how you set them up, but it's a nice feature to have and something that I think will grow and more users will start to use it. The final item is something that people have been waiting a very, very long time for, and it is CNAME support. So if you're using your UniFi router as your DNS server, up to this point, you could not use CNAME records, so you basically had to use A records for all of your devices. So why this is powerful, and I went over this in one of my last videos, but basically, I use an internal reverse proxy server. I have a video on it if you're interested in seeing. It basically just allows me to use these domain names with a valid SSL certificate to access my services rather than having to use the IP address and port and get all of those browser errors. But I'm currently using my UniFi router as my DNS server. And what you'll see is all of these IP addresses are the same, 10.2.1.215. I mean, not all of them, but most of them. And the reason for that is because I couldn't point them all to one individual DNS record. So the way that this should be set up is that this record right here, NPM, that is the DNS record for my Nginx proxy manager Docker container that is currently running all of this. This one record is the one A record that I need. So if I come here and copy this, all of these other records, literally every single other record that is pointed to 10.2.1.215 should be a CNAME record. And then at that point, the target for it would be that Nginx proxy manager. So now what does this do? This basically creates an alias for all of these records. And at that point, what we're saying is that if for whatever reason, this Nginx proxy manager moves to a different location or it has a different IP address, all I have to do is go in and update that one record, and then all of these records would point to the right location. Now, that's just one example of what you could use a CNAME record for. But from a home perspective, I think that's one of the main reasons people wanted CNAME records. Just allows you to manage things much better than you were able to in the past. Now, like I said earlier, there are a few other things that are inside of UniFi Network 9.3. But overall, I think these are the 4 biggest changes for home users. These are things that you will get true value out of. Not necessarily everybody, but I think in time, you'll use each of those features to basically just manage your network and do it more efficiently. So I'm hoping you got some value out of this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments. But other than that, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.